yes, it runs, finally. Some major changes have happened. It does run, but it no longer has the Mega Squirt setup in it. Pardon the mess in here. Get this out of the way. It now has a Holley Terminator X Max in it. I ditched the Mega Squirt after screwing with it for probably 2.5, 3 weeks, making absolutely no progress. Tried everything, adjusted the VR pods, even made new crank and cam sensor wiring harness, swapped cam and crank sensors multiple times, verified everything, just could never get it to work. So pulled it out, and I ended up going with the I think it's a 918 part number, Holley Terminator X Max. So it's got the trans control for the 4L80. Super easy kit to install. Probably the easiest EFI system out there you can get. You'll see it's got a different wiring harness on it. Not quite as pretty, but I could care less. It actually runs. You can see there. Did have some hiccups when I first installed this setup. Would not start. I had fuel commanded and I had spark commanded, would not start. Come to find out, the brand new coil relocation harnesses that I had bought were junk. So luckily I still had my old coil packs, so I just ripped the harnesses off, slapped those on, and wouldn't you know it, fired right up. As you can tell from the earlier part of the video, it's still running really rough. Just very bass tuned to get it idle. I can't drive it. I don't have the rear suspension finished, the torque converter, or the drive shaft in it, so I'm kind of just stuck sitting here idling and playing around with it. But it does run. Has great oil pressure. Even sitting here hot for a half hour running at idle, it was holding like 40 psi oil pressure, so that's pretty good. You rev it up and bloop, jumps right up to like 70. Do not have the charge pipe hooked up right now. You can see down there. I didn't want this thing to accidentally go into boost while being that lean, because while it's learning, doing its closed loop learning, it'll jump from like 12.5 AFR to freaking 22. So I didn't want that to be an issue. It's definitely louder than I thought it would be, which I'm not complaining. I think it still sounds pretty badass. One reason it's not running right now is I ran it out of gas. So go figure, the time I go to make a video, I run it out of gas. But they burned up that 5 gallons pretty quick. So let's see. This seat looks funny here. I don't have this seat bolted in. I had to take the seat out to get all the wiring back behind the dash. It just makes it a lot easier to lay on the floor. I did get the switch panel wired up. And I got rid of the Raspberry Pi dash. It is gone, as you can see. What's going to take its place is probably going to be the 7-inch Holley dash. I think it's pretty slick. Turn this all on, the battery dead. You can see the buttons. Starter, fuel pump, radiator, trans fan, onboard air, under hood and interior lights. When I put the cage in, I'm going to have LED light strips throughout different places, and like up behind the dash. So if I need to work on anything, everything will be illuminated. I'm going to have LED light strips in areas under the dash just to make it easier to see stuff like during plug changes and stuff like that. I don't have the last two populated. I don't know what I'll use those for. Yeah, I wanted to have a startup video earlier for you, but the stupid coil wiring harness issue that kind of kicked my butt for about a day. So other than that, everything's good. I'm not getting a lot of excessive blow by, which I'm happy about, because I kind of went on the big side of the ring gap. I think it was 30 thou, 28 thou was most of them. So definitely liking the header wrap. It's definitely keeping the heat in the pipe. I mean, you can see I can touch it. This motor's been running for half hour, 45 minutes. It's been shut off for about 5-6 minutes, and you can touch it. The only really big change from the Mega Squirt to the Holly is no longer has dual wide bands. It has a single wide band Bosch 4.9 sensor. Now, the good thing about the Terminator X system is you can upgrade to the Holly Dominator later on if you want to. So later on I can upgrade, just literally unplug the Terminator ECM and plug in the Dominator. But with the Dominator, if I remember right, it does not support the Bosch 4.9. It supports the 4.2. So you can't swap those around. So if you upgrade this to the Dominator, you will have to change your oxygen sensor. So that is a really straightforward system. All the harnesses are marked. Good quality harnesses, good quality labels. I did have to move my fuel pressure sensor. It was over here in the regulator. I had to move it over here because the harness has the plug for it, but it's over here, which is no big deal. I still have a manual gauge over there so I can check it real quick and adjust it while it's running. Had to swap oil pressure sending units. The Holly is designed for your typical 3-wire universal transducer, and the factory LS sending unit wouldn't work. The one I had wouldn't work, so I just bought a cheap one for $50 off, $25 off eBay, and slapped it in there, and it works great. So didn't even have to mess with the offsets. Still need to get the outputs for the dome control wired in. I'm not going to really mess with that yet till I get this thing on the road and get it driving around. Let's see. Wired the fans up yesterday. I did have to swap IAT sensors also. I had the old style, the more standard style plug IAT, like off the older motors, and it wouldn't work. I had to actually get one off an 86 Buick Century with a 3.8. So if you're looking for one, 86 Buick Century with a 3.8 is the perfect one. It's like $20 at O'Reilly's. So, and I do have the coil harnesses, the right coil harnesses, not the ugly factory ones. I got the Holly ones here. I just got to get them put on. It's been kind of a thrash. I've been spending like 16-17 hours a day or more here trying to get this thing wired up and get everything done and all the little shit. Had to deal with a few oil leaks. The gaskets for the oil drains, they're leaking a little bit. It's kind of a nuisance. And I have a coolant leak down here somewhere. I'm not sure where it's coming from yet. I haven't been able to pin it down, but it just drips. And I had taken the water pump off because I thought I was going to, well, let me rewind. Before I put the Terminator on, I had to swap from the 1X cam gear to the 4X. I had, let's see here, I had this one on previously. This is off of like a LS2. This is a 1X for the 24X setup. And I swapped it to the 4X out of the later model engine. So I had the water pump off, and when I went to put the water pump on, wouldn't you know it, 2 of the bolts on this side just pulled the threads right out of the block. This aluminum block, so had to helicoil those. Hopefully those aren't leaking. I don't see any coolant under there. That's a good sign. But yeah, it's just a bunch of little things. I have to find a way. I think I'm getting a little bit of air leak from around these flanges for my wastegates. I thought about just putting a little red silicone on there, but I don't know. I didn't really feel any leaks. Haven't felt any leaks around the V-bands, which is a good thing. So I need to get my back pressure sensors installed so I can see what kind of back pressure these little turbos have. There you go. It does run. So now my next project is going to be getting the anti-roll bar welded in and the rear shock cross member welded in so I can get my shocks measured, get those in, get this thing set in exactly where I want it so I can get my drive shaft ordered. Get that ordered, and then I need to get with some converter guys and figure out what converter I want to run in this. So, alrighty, thanks for watching.